everybody. I'm Anita Finley, your Zoomer Times TV host, and I have a superb guest. He is not only an author, he's an author, but it's because he's done such incredible things with the EPA fighting pollution and climate change. It's perfect for our world today. And Richard he was our book of the month a few months ago, and he's been on Zoom before, but this is going to be even more powerful because we believe now there are people who are going to listen. So let me introduce you. This is the book that Richard wrote, Richard Emory, and Richard's going to talk a lot about things. I don't want to spend too much time with my chatter because he has a lot to say and he's such an expert. We're so privileged to have you, Richard. So tell us what made you write the book. What gave you the credentials to write this book, please?
Anita, I started in the state of Maryland as an elected legislator and prosecutor for the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. And I prosecuted maybe the first toxic waste criminal case in America. And that caught EPA's attention. So I went to work there. And I gradually rose. It took 10 or 12 years to become the top legal advisor for EPA for all criminal investigations of pollution in our country. But Bill Barr was the Attorney General the first time in those days, and his Justice Department was making sweetheart deals with defendants like we've seen recently. And so unfortunately, I became a whistleblower, and I survived that ordeal. It's all in my book, of course, because I'm trying to show young people what they might encounter along the way in a career, like saving the planet can get you into a big mess every now and then. But I survived, and then the last 17 years, I went and worked internationally for EPA, helping other countries that wanted clean air and clean water on the U.S. model that they then very much admired because we were doing things right. You asked me why I wrote the book. Well, after 2017, my God, when Trump started, I became so distressed. I just had to write a book about it to try to redirect things. And I thank you for your interest in it and your generous introduction of my book.
Well, let me just tell you that I did not know much about this. I grew up in Miami Beach, and I know that the water's been rising. But Richard, I really didn't know what you had in your book. I took each page. I probably had to read the book again because it's very scientific. It's very involved, and I can't believe that you did all those things. I mean, it was like, wow, this guy is really something. So let's talk about what's the most important. You have some points that you would like to bring up. You have about 4 points, and I'd like you to tell us why you want to talk about this today on our Zoomer Times TV, and what are they?
Well, yes. Well, Anita, on my previous 2 appearances, I talked mostly about the environmental problems that we face, including climate change and how serious it is. And it really is serious. But now that we have a new administration, and this is just day 2 of the new administration, what a great time to talk about what is being done and can be done to start to, I won't say fix it, because honestly, we're going to suffer. We should have started fixing it 40 years ago, but we can at least delay and reduce the impacts of the sea coming in and the hurricanes getting worse and drought and, fires, all the impacts we've been seeing. And so that's what I'd like to talk about, what Biden is doing and can do.
Okay, well, let's start with the first thing. What do you think of all the things that you would like to see done? What is the most important issue?
Well, I was going to cover that last, but I'll cover it first because that is the most important. That's the most important thing. So there are many details of new programs that Biden can put into place, but the 2 absolutely most important things I'll start with. First is pricing greenhouse gases, primarily carbon, that are causing global warming and climate change, to include their full social and environmental costs. And in the last 2 decades, we've seen how quickly new and better flat screen TVs, laptop computers, iPhones made in China swept away the old style, obsolete electronic products, then sometimes still made in the USA. And China leads the world now in the production of clean energy equipment and is moving to increase its climate protection goals and its production of clean energy products. And the free market of international trade will put more and more political and economic pressure on the US to keep up with China. But fortunately, the US can adopt a market based tool to begin to make America competitive again. That's what I want to talk about because it's partly economics and it's partly the environment. So the Citizens Climate Lobby is a group I like because it's leading among many environmental groups that wisely are pushing for something called the carbon fee and dividend. So let's keep that phrase in mind. It's a free market-based policy tool supported by many leading conservatives. And I think our listeners know the names of James Baker and George Shultz and Hank Paulson. And these are Republican leaders, statesmen, but also appointees to the Council of Economic Advisors, many, many Nobel Prize winners. They all support this, the carbon fee and dividend. And dividend means that all money collected from a carbon tax will be rebated 100% equally to all the people of America. And when consumers and businesses receive their rebates of the carbon tax, call it a fee, call it a tax, call it a fee to try to sell it. Most people getting the money back will choose not to waste their money and pay the carbon fee on the same old high-cost climate-killing products. But buyers will move to clean energies, clean fuels, clean technologies that will cost relatively less now because the carbon tax does not apply to them. And many Americans will make the free market choice. That's why these conservatives like it. It's a free market choice. It's a free market that doesn't exist naturally, but it can be created and will work. So they'll buy electric vehicles, hydrogen-powered trucks and buses, rooftop solar panels, whatever's tax-free. Nobody wants to pay a tax. And then there can be more legislated incentives and controls, and these products can be made in America. So that's number one. So do you want me to go into number?
Richard, that sounds absolutely exciting because you're right. It would hit both sides of the issues. And everyone, I want to say it again. I want to get Richard W. Emory Jr. I want to get his name here again because you're going to be hearing so many interesting things. Don't forget his name. It's very important. Well, this is beautiful. And I certainly hope that Biden goes ahead with this. And you said that some of the not old, but the elder statesmen like this. So this could be wonderful.
Yeah, it was developed by conservative thinkers who like market-based incentives and big profits can be made once we switch to making all these new products. Well, the second thing that we have to do, and I will mention that now, and I cannot overstate how serious is the threat of climate chaos. It really threatens ultimately in 200 years, if we keep going business as usual, humanity could go extinct from poisoning both the sea and the air. But I don't think that's going to happen. And the Paris Accord from, was it 2015 or 16, sets goals. And, Trump pulled us out of it, and Biden just yesterday put us back into it. But the Paris Accord from 4 or 5 years ago, it sets goals. They're not adequate to save us. They're only optional, means they're not enforceable, and they don't require specific tools to actually achieve the goals. So the Paris Accord is just a start for what we need as a treaty. It's even weaker on China. I do think that the U.S. was under Trump briefly, I'd call it a rogue nation, an outlaw nation, like Iran, Iraq, Libya, Sudan, Eritrea, Yemen, and the United States were the only ones not abiding by the Paris Accord. So fortunately, we're back in. We're not a rogue nation anymore since yesterday. And now even China is moving to raise its climate protection goals to a level above those of the Paris Accord. And there's no competitive reason, if China's going to do it, why we shouldn't do the same. We should raise our goals. And a strong climate treaty will require the United States to protect the climate no less than China. And it will punish outlaw nations like we used to be that ignore international standards. So those are the two biggies, and let's hope they happen.
So let me ask you, so who will be the representative there for us in that for that organization?
Well, John Kerry, former Secretary of State
Excellent.
and
Yeah.
Senator from Massachusetts, was they call him humorously the climate czar.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, but he's operating not from EPA but from the White House to pull together all the pieces of the U.S. government to make sure that all the pieces play nicely together. Because sometimes U.S. agencies don't play nicely together.
Hmm.
I mean, we saw how all the intel on the invasion of the U.S. Capitol was ignored. Uh, it's kind of like what we saw on 9/11 when all the agencies had different parts of the picture, but nobody put it together. So Kerry's job is to put it together and make sure all the U.S. government pieces play nicely together.
Let me ask you a question before you go. Why hasn't Al Gore been brought into this? I would think he's perfect. He's the one that made this so important.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. He's very interested in it. He writes books about it and organizes his climate reality organization is his organization, and he's active. I don't know. Maybe he just figures it's time enough, and he's sitting on the sidelines. But
Maybe he's doing
I mean,
things we don't know about also, as you said. But
yeah,
okay,
I
so
mean, I mean, to actually come back into the government is, that totally changes your life. I mean, you're just absorbed by it, and but Kerry's willing to do that.
okay, well, that'll be interesting. So again, I'm talking to Richard W. Emory Jr. This is his book. You can see it's called Fighting Pollution and Climate Change. It's a brilliant book. If you're interested in all in any of this, especially now, please go get it. You can get it on Amazon and just buy it. You'll become an expert just by reading this, frankly. Okay, so let's continue with some of the other points because you are so smart about this. You've been in the trenches. You're not just an author who read things and did research. You were there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I rode the EPA roller coaster up and down. EPA, depending on who's in power, it's like a roller coaster. It goes up, it goes down, it goes around in circles, and fortunately now the fun cars are on an upswing. And I like seeing the fun cars go up. Uh, you're not going to throw up when they're going up, and uh, and this agency will be the most important one for saving the world. And I put that saving in quotes because, as I said, I don't think we can really prevent much of the sea level rise and the worsening hurricanes and drought. It's too late to prevent many disasters, but uh, we can delay them and reduce their scope, hopefully, and who knows? I mean, if somebody develops a way to take the carbon out of the air and out of the ocean, we can actually get back to situation normal and equilibrium. Uh, Otherwise, it's going to take well over 1,000 years for the nature to heal itself and purge itself of all the carbon we've pumped into the ocean and the sea. But that's another possibility to actually ameliorate the to increase the health again of the sea and the air. I keep mentioning the sea because
Richard,
92% goes into the sea. The sea absorbs most of the carbon.
Richard, while you were talking, I was thinking about something.
Mhm.
If we could have, we've had the um, COVID. Now the news, all the doctors, the scientists are going to be doing that hopefully at least once a week.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to have something on climate control and change once a week and have the scientists talk, someone like you to talk about it because a lot of people
Oh.
don't understand this.
Oh, I hadn't heard what you just told me. That's a great idea.
I just thought of it because you have so much to talk about. And since I don't know, I read a lot. Maybe that's what should happen, that these major issues should be now talked to the public, just like they're doing
Yeah.
about the virus.
Well, I'm just one of many people that are informed and ready to talk about it and welcome such opportunities as you provide me. Uh, uh, but I don't have any particular. The only unique way that I think I might help the government going forward is I did develop international guidance with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD in Paris, and the United Nations Environment Program on how uh, governments can enforce environmental treaties. And I'm something of an expert in that and have some published technical papers on
Mhm.
and I would like to come back into service just to focus on that because I'm not a scientist. I don't want to take on the entire uh, uh, scope of what the treaty should cover, but to actually have an enforceable treaty that's not just pious platitudes and goals and hopes is something that I think I could help with, and I am ready to contribute that from my own time.
Maybe you ought to write a letter to the editor of the New York Times and show your book and tell them what you would like to do. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I would like to do that.
You're a pretty important person. We're very privileged to have you on our show. You're one of the most, one of the most, I would say, educated in a particular area that we've had. We've had a lot of doctors and we've had lawyers and all, but you really stand out about something that's so important now. So let's see what you can do. But okay, keep going. There's a couple of more things I think you'd like to talk about before we end.
Well, I'm not sure how knowledgeable I am today on all the latest details, but I certainly have a lot of passion for it because, we all have, well, maybe not, we don't all, but many of us are fortunate enough to have grandchildren, and we see grandchildren here and there, and truthfully, they and the great great grandchildren are under a terrible, terrible threat. Great great grandchildren will never see if we don't get on this. And I think we will. I'll just quickly mention that in December, Congress passed a big budget bill. And some good news is that it wasn't all negative, and it actually uh, contained provisions to help improve the climate, perhaps to 1/2 a degree, by phasing out hydrochlorocarbons. They're the frightful greenhouse gases that we have in all our air conditioners here in Florida, and they're also propellants. We call it R410A. That's what it's known as commonly, and it's in our home air conditioners. And even the last Congress, I know Trump didn't want this in there, but it was such a big bill he couldn't strike it out. Empowers EPA to cut the production of these climate-killing chemicals by 85% over 15 years, and this fulfills our treaty obligations under the Montreal Protocol, and that's the model for the climate bill, the Montreal Protocol, because it's continuously improving and progressing, and all the nations are in, and it's what we ought to try to copy for all the other chemicals, but these are just refrigerants and propellants. In the private sector, there's been good news. Uh, Many, for economic reasons, coal-fired plants are shutting down. Uh, GM and other car makers plan many, many more electric vehicles. Uh, there are lots of good signs, uh, and the problem is as much competing with China economically, because now they lead the world in the production of big nuclear reactors, which we're going to need. I discussed that in a previous program where we need the advanced nuclear reactors that are safe, completely safe, and will handle the baseline when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow. But China is making more than any other country. They're making the solar panels for us. They're making wind turbines. They control most of the rare earth minerals that we need for lithium batteries and for electric vehicles and equipment. And we really need to have a manufacturing policy that emphasizes these things. Uh, I'm not just talking about infrastructure for roads and bridges. That's important, but infrastructure for clean energy that's made in America. Uh, so hopefully this will be part of Biden's plan. It's too early yet to see it. Uh, it's called the Green New Deal. Nobody knows what form it'll take, but let's hope there is one. Um,
Well, I know you know this, and I'm very unclear. But this whole thing with the pipeline in Canada, why is Canada, I mean, they're a good, very good country. They're conscientious, but I guess it's going to hurt their economy. Is that why they're against our cutting it off?
Uh, yeah, I mean, it's the powerful force in several Canadian provinces. But Canada, generally speaking, has been greener and uh,
Mm-hmm.
a better world citizen than we have. And I think that they've actually implemented a carbon tax a year or so ago. If it hasn't been, I know it was controversial, but I think they've actually gone ahead in that way. And they stayed in the Paris Accord, and they're respected around the world because they provide all the good peacekeepers to UN forces that go in, and they want peacekeepers that don't rape and pillage everybody. The Canadians are very well respected, so I think they're just going to have to live with it.
Right.
don't
Well,
don't send us all
for
that
them.
dirty oil.
Yeah, there's a big thing going on now. I saw where Biden's sending one of his representatives about that, and the Republicans are very upset about it. But I was just curious. I don't know too much about it, but hopefully it'll do what's best. And I like the idea that there are many things that can occur. I want to go back to the fee, that they can occur, and just let people know, listen, you're going to get money back if we do this. This is going to be in your pocket. So how do you feel about that now?
Yeah, well, Denmark had a carbon tax in the 70s. I
Huh.
mean, we're just way behind some of these other places.
Yeah,
Sweden is going to be 100% clean energy soon. 100%.
I saw
Uh,
that.
yeah, I mean, honestly, we just have to wake up and pay attention to what more sophisticated, progressive countries are doing. Countries that aren't out of
Right,
control, don't try to burn down their own capitals.
right. And smell the roses. And I hear where England's, I think, what is it, 10 years from now or whenever, there'll be no gasoline cars, all electric.
UK is moving out there. Absolutely. Yeah, those are our cousins. Come on, let's go pay them a visit and see what they could teach us.
No, you're absolutely right. So, okay, so now let's say someone knocks on your door and says, Richard Emory, we want you back here. We need your advice. So, well, you never know, Richard. You spend a lot of time. They are bringing back people. Who knows? That's why your book is so, so important. Tell us what on the front looks like a badge. It's called Environmental Protection Agency. Talk about that badge.
Well, that's my honorary badge. It's actually right there on
Okay.
that. I cannot wear it and impersonate an officer, okay, because it's affixed to
Right.
my plaque. And I
Okay.
was not I was I was not a federal special agent, but I was their legal advisor. And EPA, when I served, had I don't know, 150 federal. They're just like FBI agents, except they focus on pollution crime, and they could call the FBI in to help them if they need manpower, for a raid or something. But uh, I was their legal advisor, and they awarded me that badge. And it's one of my proudest possessions, I must say, because those guys were they, they were doing the job. But I was into command and control. EPA law that says put in pollution controls by 1 year from now, or else we're coming for you. But
Right.
and those requirements still have to be there, particularly for our unruly population. But we also
Right.
need to switch to market-based mechanisms that provide economic incentives. Uh, we can't just use command and control anymore like we used to. The other market-based mechanism I'll just mention is called cap and trade. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll just maybe I ought to tell you. Maybe can I? I don't know how much. We're almost to finish up here, but maybe
Well,
I ought
we
to
have
tell you
probably
what.
another maybe 5 minutes. Keep going. Keep going.
Well, let me just tell people why uh, we can be confident that a restored Environmental Protection Agency will be able to do the job. To save the climate and help South Florida. I'm not sure we can save South Florida, but we can save the climate. So uh, I've already uh, mentioned, I think, that Congress, the old Congress rejected many of Trump's efforts to cut the EPA budget for environmental protection. So many of the EPA career staff remain. They're too few. Uh, there are only about half as many as there were in 1980, which was a high watermark for EPA's budget.
Mhm.
But there are people there who, starting right now, today, are back on it because yesterday was a federal holiday, I assume.
Right.
They're back here right now implementing these executive orders starting
Good,
now, but they're new
good.
programs. Now, if anybody thinks that EPA can't do the job, let's remember these things. And I'll run through this quickly. In 1972, EPA saved the American eagle from extinction caused by man-made pesticides, DDT specifically. In the 80s, using cap and trade, we took the lead out of gasoline that was causing brain damage in urban babies. Uh, in the 1990s, we also used cap and trade and a market mechanism to stop acid rain you remember acid rain from power
Yes.
plants that was poisoning,
Mhm.
killing northern lakes and forests. We stopped the toxic waste dumping that was being done by many of our biggest, finest corporations, household names were dumping their toxic waste wherever they could. Absolutely. We stopped that in the 1980s. And we've been implementing Montreal Protocol, I told you, to protect the stratospheric sun shield, the ozone layer. So uh, we could do it. And what's climate change to EPA? It's just another air pollution problem, like so many. It's not. It's just same old, same old.
And
So
Richard,
turn us.
I just got a note that we've run out of time. So what we would like to
Ah.
do, no, it's okay. I want to have you back again.
Oh.
I'm never going to get enough because it'll be interesting. When you come back again, you can then tell us what's happened in that next month from the time today. So I want everyone to see your book, Fighting Pollution and Climate Change. Richard W. Emory Jr., be sure if you can buy it, go on Amazon. But Richard, it's so wonderful for you to do this with us. And we'll send you this and you can send it out or tell us where to send it, but we'll have you back again. And thank you so much.
Thank you. You're a wonderful friend, and we're going to save the world together.
Yes, thanks to you. Okay, bye.
Bye bye.